Hello, I'm Africa 54 Managing Editor Vincent Makori in for Hashtag the U-Word. It's Wednesday, August the 25th. This is Africa 54.
The Somali government reopens schools despite a surge in coronavirus infections. New Zambian President Hakainde Hichilema shares his vision for improving the economy and stimulating job growth. And a $2 billion debt scandal trial is underway in Mozambique.
The Somali government reopened schools this month despite a new wave of coronavirus infections. As Mohammed Sheikh Noor reports from Mogadishu, there are concerns about whether measures to prevent the virus from spreading in classrooms and beyond are sufficient.
Early morning in a Mogadishu school, and students arrive to prepare for the day's activities. None of the students are wearing masks as they mingle, even though the country is experiencing a new wave of COVID-19 infections. Khadija Adam is the principal responsible for the day-to-day running of the institution. She has a daunting task ahead, trying to keep her students safe while in school.
We keep reminding our students about good sanitation. The students understand that they must wash hands. We lobbied the Ministry of Education and they have supported us with hand-washing facilities. We normally instill in students that it is compulsory to sanitize their hands and wear masks, as this will enable schools to remain open.
In Somalia, uptake for COVID-19 vaccines remains low. The most vulnerable are the elderly, and there is fear school reopening might increase infections among the students who will ultimately expose their families. Abdifatah Muhyiddin is a student at the school and fears for his older relatives.
I am really worried about the coronavirus as it has returned and reached its peak. I'm concerned about the health of my family since school has reopened, and I might get infected in school and take the virus back to my family.
The prolonged closure of schools due to the pandemic had a negative impact on the lives of young Somalis. There was a significant increase in school dropouts, and this disrupted the social and economic well-being of families. Abdifatah Mahmoud is a trader in Mogadishu, and after a hard day's work, finds time in the evening to mentor his two teenage daughters, hoping they will catch up on lost time.
The long lockdown negatively impacted education. Some girls disappointed with education got married and started families. Boys who dropped out became either touts on passenger vehicles or migrated to other places. The length of the lockdown really affected education.
Mohammed Abi, Director General of Somalia's Ministry of Education, acknowledges the hardships.
One of the principal side effects of the coronavirus on education is that even the few students who showed resilience to continuing with education performed poorly during exams. Performance was below average, unlike any other time in the past. The quality of education went down, and some schools had to close down.
When it announced the reopening of schools, Somalia's Ministry of Education promised preventive measures were in place to ensure learning returns to normal. Students are required to wear face masks and maintain social distancing, among other measures. However, not all of these preventive measures are being followed, as seen in the Mogadishu school. Mohammed Sheikh Noor for VOA News, Mogadishu, Somalia.
Now, despite COVID-19 vaccines being available to all South African adults, vaccination rates remain low, with just 20% of adults having received their first dose. The Muslim Association of South Africa is one of many groups fighting vaccine hesitancy by delivering shots to doorsteps. Linda Givertash reports from Johannesburg.
Dawn Krotz received her Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine in the comfort of her South Johannesburg home. While the vaccine has been made available to the 64-year-old since April, Krotz says rumors about the side effects made her hesitate. But the reality of the deadly virus changed her mind.
I decided to get it because I saw my daughter-in-law's father got so sick and he passed away. And then I thought, hey, let me also get it. I take a flu vaccine every year. I go and I buy it and they give it to me. And then I thought, no, let me do this also.
With South Africa's COVID death toll surpassing 79,000, volunteers like this paramedic are scrambling to quell people's vaccine fears. The country's Muslim Association launched an at-home vaccination program to provide individual attention to allay concerns and to remove the barriers of traveling to a clinic.
And I think it's just a misconception, people reading on social media, people hearing from different people that is bad for you, that is man-made, how can we create a vaccine in a year, etc., etc. So there's a lot of hesitancy that we've come across, but we put their fears to bed.
South Africa's vaccine rollout has faced hurdles providing the vaccine, but experts say the more recent lag in inoculating the country's 59 million people is the result of misinformation fueled by social media, along with more practical concerns.
One is very worried about the social media rumors. Broadly, the concerns about vaccines seem to be a bit more reasonable. And in our survey, for instance, it was shown that mostly individuals were worried about safety, and they were mostly worried about the turnaround time for developing the vaccine.
Another problem is access to transportation and basic information, especially among the elderly.
The registration for vaccines are electronic, and even though you can at sites also register, you need to know where the sites are before you can show up there.
For people like 22-year-old Kurt Fisher, who is quadriplegic, getting to a vaccination site is difficult both physically and mentally, says his father. The rest of the Fisher family has been vaccinated.
I would have sacrificed not having it to give him my shot if possible, that he's first. The familiarity of being able to be in his house is a big benefit, that there's no stress involved going to a foreign venue.
Experts say volunteer efforts are closing the gap in vaccinating more people, especially the most vulnerable. President Cyril Ramaphosa applauded the country's youth on Monday for rushing to sites as vaccines were made available to those as young as 18. But experts warn that fears and other barriers still need to be addressed, or the latest uptick could fizzle out as it did among older age groups. Linda Givertash for VOA News, Johannesburg.
Hakainde Hichilema is the newly inaugurated seventh president of Zambia. In part two, VOA's exclusive interview with him, correspondent Peter Clottey spoke to Hichilema about his vision for Zambia, including encouraging democracy and developing infrastructure strategies that will help stabilize the country and the economy. President Hichilema also emphasized the importance of basic human rights, education, job skills training, and the need to eliminate corruption at all levels.
Mr. President, under your leadership, how do you want the already warm relations between Washington and Lusaka to be under your leadership?
Much better. Much better.
How?
Much better in the sense that we have shared our vision. Our values are very clear. We espouse clear values. Constitutionalism, democracy, and democratic space to all in accordance to our constitution, in accordance to subsidiary laws. We ascribe to the rule of law, order in society, respecting fundamental human rights, liberties, and freedoms, anti-corruption convention, auditor general, separation of powers, parliament, legislature, doing its duty, 3 arms of government. Now, all of this package, I think it's aligned to countries in the free world, including the country you mentioned. And since this is the case, I think we need to support each other. We need to strengthen our relationship. I think we have to align our interests, then find common interests. So is the case with the European Union. So is the case with India. So is the case with Japan. So is the case with other African countries. I shouldn't go far. African countries, within SADC, within African Union, ECOWAS, East African Community. We believe we are aligned to many of you who are democratic out there. And I think we should strengthen our relationship to grow democracy, to learn from each other. We have a lot to learn ourselves. We are willing students. A willing student learns. We're not rigid. We don't know everything. We want to benefit from those who have done things better than us. We don't want to reinvent the wheel because it's expensive. We're not in that business. Thank you.
Expectations in Zambia are high.
Indeed.
You promised a lot. People are saying you even overpromised. What is your message to them, Mr. President?
Can you run a country where people are hungry? Do you think you will stay in office for a year, my brother? They'll take you out. A hungry man?
An angry man.
Is an angry man. So is that a promise? No. It is an obligation to feed the people. That's why we're seeking public office. Challenging, difficult as it is, we have to do it. We have to find answers. If we have to come to you for answers, arm twist you, persuade you, we will do that. Can you run an economy where your population is unskilled, no education, no skills? Is it sustainable? No. Therefore, the child must go to school. Not for the name that they graduate, but for the skill they have, they bring to the table, they acquire, which will help you run the economy. Right. If we say we will have to provide medicines in hospitals, which are not there, is that a choice? No, my brother. Can you be a president of a country, a cabinet, and watch your people die or consume expired medicines, as we saw? No. Is that an empty promise? No. Is that a commitment? Yes. Why? Because it's needed. That's the leadership we bring to the table. How do we allow corruption to continue? Because it takes away resources from children. It's an obligation to fight corruption. Must be seen like that. Promise? No. It's a necessity. We have not overpromised anything. We have answered what people's cries are. And with the people, with the difficult financial situation, with the support of those who believe in what we're doing, and democracy and rule of law, we think all of these facets brought together will begin to dismantle a very difficult situation and deliver for the people of Zambia. What does that do to Africa, what we've achieved here? It is important for Africa because at the end of the day, we cooperate, we work together for mutuality, for the greater good of all our people across artificial boundaries, across oceans, because no society is in a line. Trouble here is trouble everywhere. Good here is good somewhere else. Thank you.
Well, be sure to watch Africa 54 on Thursday as VOA correspondent Peter Clottey wraps up his three-part interview with Hakainde Hichilema, the new president of Zambia. Well, the United Nations Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, is urging support for Ethiopians fleeing to Sudan. The UNHCR chief visited Kuba camp in eastern Sudan, where refugees who escaped fighting in Ethiopia's Tigray region have settled. The conflict has displaced hundreds of thousands inside the country and forced nearly 48,000 people to flee to Sudan. Refugees are arriving at remote border points that take hours to reach from the nearest towns in Sudan.
The conditions in the camp are, of course, fragile, as in any humanitarian situation, but they have improved. We've seen education services, food distributions, health care, and other facilities that are offered to the refugees.
The Refugees Agency and its partners continue to support Sudan's government to provide Ethiopian refugees with life-saving assistance and access to service, including shelter, food, water, sanitation, health, and education. Many refugees say they would return home if peace and security returned.
There is no military solution to this problem. The solution has to be negotiated politically, diplomatically, And that's the only way to restore peace and to create the conditions based on which the thousands of people hosted here in Sudan will be able to go back in safety, in dignity, and voluntarily.
As the refugee crisis continues, the United States and European Union are raising alarm over the recent deployment of troops from Eritrea to Ethiopia's Tigray region, where 9 months of war have killed thousands of people and sparked a worsening humanitarian crisis. Those remarks came as the U.S. Treasury Department announced sanctions against a leading Eritrean official it accused of human rights abuses during the war in Tigray. Eritrea says the allegations are baseless. Down south now, a criminal trial over the $2 billion debt scandal that crashed Mozambique's economy is underway, and South Africa says it's ready to extradite a chief suspect that it has detained. Julian Sitterwhite has more.
A criminal trial began in Mozambique this week over a $2 billion debt scandal that crashed the country's economy. Proceedings got underway in Maputo, the capital, on Monday. And it looks like one of the chief suspects could be appearing. South Africa says it will extradite former Mozambique Finance Minister Manuel Chang back to his home country. Chang and 19 others face charges including blackmail and embezzlement. A total of $2 billion was raised in state-backed loans to pay for a project involving tuna fishing, shipyard development and maritime security. But authorities say vast sums were paid out in kickbacks, and much of the project's promised benefits never materialized. Security officials and a former president's son are among others charged. Chang, who denies all wrongdoing, has been held in South Africa since being arrested at the request of US investigators. It's not clear whether he will be tried separately or as part of the wider case. When the full extent of the scandal was revealed in 2016, donors cut off support for the country, triggering a currency collapse. Mozambique remains on the hook for the missing money.
Well, Julian Satterthwaite of Reuters fired that report. 51 Afghan evacuees arrived at Entebbe International Airport in Uganda Wednesday, including women and children. They were received by the U.S. Ambassador to Uganda, Natalie Brown. The evacuees are presently staying at the Imperial Resort Beach Hotel. A viewer spoke to James Matuta, Principal Information Officer for the Vice President, who said the Afghans would be processed and regarded as regular refugees. And after their temporary stay, they will be taken to other countries. And Matuta says this is a special program supported by the international community. He also added that Uganda is doing everything possible to bring back Ugandans stranded in Afghanistan. This follows internal criticism that the government should focus on returning Ugandan citizens who are in Afghanistan before taking other nationals. U.S. President Joe Biden says the United States will complete its mission of evacuating Americans and Afghans from Afghanistan by August 31st deadline. While the pace of evacuations is accelerating, U.S. lawmakers remain concerned about the threat posed by the Taliban and Islamic State in Khorasan, and by the lack of U.S. preparation for the chaos unfolding in Kabul. VOA's congressional correspondent Catherine Gibson has more.
Evacuations at Kabul airport accelerating as the August 31st deadline for a complete U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan draws near. The White House saying the U.S. is on track to meet that crucial deadline.
Every day we're on the ground is another day we know that ISIS-K is seeking to target the airport and attack both U.S. and allied forces and innocent civilians.
That announcement coming after the Taliban said they would not negotiate with the U.S. to extend the deadline.
We convey again a message to the Americans to withdraw all their citizens in the given time frame. They have the facilities, airplanes are available, and they have control of the airport. They should evacuate all their forces and all their related contractors.
The White House clarifying that evacuations will need to stop before August 31st.
There would need to be time to wind down the presence.
The Pentagon saying it will need several days to remove U.S. personnel and equipment The administration says there is still enough time to complete the mission of evacuating all Americans and eligible Afghans. In total, more than 70,000 individuals have already been evacuated, the largest such operation in U.S. history.
This tremendous display of teamwork and focus resulted in a passenger count of 21,600 individuals leaving Afghanistan in just 24 hours.
But U.S. lawmakers are already reviewing the reasons the Afghan government collapsed so quickly, leading to that chaotic evacuation.
There were any number of warnings that the Taliban might take over, and some that included the potential of a very rapid takeover. At the same time, though, I think it's also fair to say that no one predicted such a rapid collapse, a rapid and complete collapse of the Afghan government and forces.
Capitol Hill Republicans say White House officials should resign for failing to predict the collapse and plan for an evacuation.
This was Joe Biden's fault, Kamala Harris's fault, and all of his administration and those in charge. Their plan to withdraw was completely irresponsible. They had the information, and they knew what they were going to do was going to create this crisis.
Both Democrats and Republicans remain doubtful of the White House claim that the U.S. can complete the evacuation in time and have called on President Biden to extend it. The White House said Thursday it has contingency plans in place in case the evacuations need to continue into September. Catherine Gibson, VOA News, Washington.
At 23 years old, Arnold Nyendwa is a Zambian multi-award-winning inventor who is already making headlines internationally, perhaps for a good reason, inspired by circumstances surrounding his community. For example, unreliable electricity power supply. He embarked on a mission to invent Zambia's first stainless steel stove that uses gas, electricity, and solid fuel. For more, Africa 54 technology correspondent Paul Dio spoke to Arnold Nyendwa, founder and CEO of Ventura's Jumpstart Limited, a stainless steel tech company based in Lusaka.
Arnold Nyendwa, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you so much, Paul. It's my pleasure.
I've heard a lot of good things about you. You are the new kid on the block. Everybody is talking about your amazing innovation, how it's changing lives, how you are empowering the whole community with your stove. Can you tell us a little bit about your invention, please?
My journey started way back when I was 16. I started as a dream and passion to solve local problems. But these local problems were specifically influenced by two factors at the beginning before we diverted into the entrepreneurship space. These local problems specifically were the 2015 load shedding, which is an energy deficit we had as a country. And the other one was every time I'll travel to my village, I'll see women cooking on firewood. And that just had an impact on me to say, I need to change this cause. I had to think of something that I can provide to the local people. And I built, by then it was called a Juven brazier, named after my parents, Justine and Vincent, before it changed to a stove. And therefore in 2020, I embarked on another invention, which is the first of its kind in Africa, the stove, the Juven stainless stove now, which is a 3-in-1 stove that uses gas, electricity, and solid fuel on one product with 12 bolts and 12 nuts that allows you to assemble it and dismantle it. You can use it for outdoor purposes and indoor purposes.
You've also won several international awards as a result of your innovation. Has that changed who you are? Has that inspired you to do even more, to be a better entrepreneur, a better innovator?
Interesting part about awards, they are really good having awards, but sometimes awards can act as a distraction to more especially the founders of companies, because the news and the media sometimes and also the awards can excite you. But that has changed my life in a number of ways because I've been able to finance certain movements or certain things within my company, Venturas Jumpstart, through the same awards. It has also given us a lot of credibility as a company and a lot of people wanting to associate with us. And of course, it's just bringing new opportunities towards the work once you win an award.
How big is your market in Zambia, for example?
We have specifically two products. We have the one for biomass, for solid fuel, that just functions the 7-in-1, the first version, just that it's improved. And we have the most latest thing, which I like calling the international product, the 3-in-1 stove that uses gas, electricity, and solid fuel for the international market. But in the next few coming years, I'm not only seeing myself being in Zambia, I'm seeing myself being around Africa, crossing to Europe. And now, since we are producing the stoves, we'll be producing the stoves from Asia. We're seeing also tapping on also having a share in the Asian market, because they have all these years we've been having foreign products from the Western world influencing our continent. But it's a high time also we go there and we also participate in the other market, including there in the US.
Earlier you talked about how you were able to get some support from the president of Zambia, Mr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu. He connected you to different partners and you're able to bring this product to the marketplace. Do you think governments should play a role in supporting young entrepreneurs?
So the president came through in terms of the endorsement for us to go ahead with the partnership. The government has a lot of role to play in terms of policy and just protection of its citizens, and just to be there to support, because they have to provide a conducive environment for business operations and just to be able that there is good, friendly policies that enable business to thrive. So they have a very we can never do it on our own.
Thank you so much for your time.
I'm very much grateful to VOA. I grew up watching this channel, and just to be here today, it's a dream come true for me. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, that was Africa 54 technology correspondent Paul Ndio speaking to Arnold Nyendwa, founder and CEO of Ventura's Jumpstart Limited, a stainless steel tech company based in Lusaka, Zambia. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. From all of us here in Washington, thanks for watching.